start on this real quick. Basically, I just kind of wanted to show. I'm not really working on anything in particular, but I had some questions from a friend who was like asking me about like some plugins and stuff like that, and tripping out. Um, and I kind of wanted to show everybody on here on this live stream like some plugins that I use as far as like effects kind of plugins, not really mixing or mastering plugins, but just kind of like some effects plugins that I kind of use on the regular, not for every song, but for like the majority of the more recent tracks anyway. And maybe this will kind of help you out, and maybe in your production as far as like kind of adding plugins and effects onto whatever you're making. It doesn't necessarily have to be production. Sometimes it's more about like just adding effects to like vocals or something like that. So I have a few like these are just kind of like general kind of controllers right here. This is the Atom by Presonus. It's just basically like a pad controller. This is mainly used for Studio One, their dedicated software, but you can use it as just like a general MIDI controller, which is what I'm using it as for the most part. And then I have this MIDI Fighter Twister, which is basically just 16 pushable encoders, basically that you can map and stuff like that. I'll get into it more in depth in the stream, but I just kind of want to show you. These are the main two things that I'm just going to be showing off. Maybe the Ableton push, but I don't really want to use the push because not too many people like have that in general. But I will start the stream in just a second here. Let me just go back, or I'll start what I'm actually working on in just a second. I just need to maybe delete some stuff just so I can kind of start from scratch and we can kind of do this as I go. One plugin that I use occasionally, not really on the regular. I use it a lot for what's it called? More for like live beat performances rather than in production. There's a couple things actually. Let me just go to my plugins here. Here, let me change the scenes here so you can kind of see what I'm working with. So this is basically, I just kind of just mapped this out real quick. This is just basically a drum loop and then a sample loop being played over it. It's like I didn't really work on anything. It's just kind of for example purposes. One plugin that I used before this other one was this plugin called Effectrix. And Effectrix essentially is a bunch of effects that you can kind of turn on and off. There's on the left side here, there's just a handful of effects that are kind of color coordinated, and then a more recent plugin or just newer to Effectrix. So I was using Effectrix for actually a long time, it's been around for a long time. Then another plugin that came around was called Glitch. And this is essentially the same thing as Effectrix, maybe with a few differences. But essentially it's the same thing. Let me go ahead and just do a blank one here. And now this is kind of crapping out on me. Sorry, the audio is kind of... I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah. If it's not one thing, it's another, huh? Yeah. So these are pretty much almost the same kind of plugin. I just use Glitch more as of recently because I feel like it's just a more updated program as opposed to Effectrix. Effectrix basically hasn't changed in the past, 10 plus years. Glitch, I don't know exactly when it came out, but It has a more modern interface, which is kind of what I like. But here, I'll just play a loop out real quick. This is basically just a drum loop. So we can go ahead and add some effects to this, basically. And like I said, this is mainly what I do on like live performances, like live beat sets or whatever. And I use it sometimes in production, but not too often. But I put this on usually for live performances. I use this on the master track or the master bus, and it affects like the overall sound, like everything pretty much is affected rather than individual like individual tracks. But here, like I said, it's pretty much the same kind of plugin. We'll focus on glitch first. It has like this tape stop effect on here, which we can just draw in, and I draw it in on every like beat pretty much rather than the whole thing. So here's how it sounds when I play it. When I play the song now, is this on the right one? Can we activate it? So it's kind of like a turntable, like when you stop a turntable. And then we can adjust the speed of how it slows down and stuff like that. And then Effectrix pretty much has the same thing. And I'll draw it in real quick. And here's how Effectrix sounds as opposed to glitch. Almost the same. Okay. So, like I said, I use this in a live setting. So when I perform live or do live beat sets, I use this tool, which is the MIDI Fighter Twister. It's by DJ Tech Tools. It's been around for a while. I think they've come with like 2 or 3 iterations of this thing. But it's basically just like a USB MIDI controller, and it comes with its own utility software, which you can pretty much customize all the encoders, the push buttons on it, as well as how you want pretty much all the encoders to function. It has a few banks on here as well, so you can bank through a few of them. Did I do that right? Okay, but this is kind of like my setup for my own personal use. Of course, you can map this however you want. Within Live itself, I'll go up to this MIDI button up here, and this is kind of like the MIDI learn button. And then we can assign how, say like glitch, we can assign it when it turns on and off. So I'll go ahead and push this top left encoder. And then as you can see right here, it is assigned to the encoder, like pushing it down. So when it's a momentary switch basically. So I have to hold it down to keep it active, and then when I release the button, it becomes inactive. And if you can see on the controller itself, see it changes color. That's just like how I customized it. I mean, usually green means go for me. And that means like something's active. So as you can see, when I'm pushing it, it turns on and off. So let's go ahead and play it. And then we can MIDI map Effectrix as well by the MIDI learn, and use the second encoder when you push it down. So same thing. Yeah. And then since it's basically a knob, we can also map out the knob to function as well. So within this glitch, I guess, plugin in Ableton, we can hit this arrow, and then you can configure basically like one of the panels. So I'll hit configure at the top, it turns green, and then I want to adjust this slowdown feature. So I'll hit this. Should add on here real quick. There. And then it shows like this slider basically. And then now we can map this slider to the top left encoder. So I'm just gonna turn it and then see it mapped the encoder to it. So like when we adjust it, you can see the thing going on and off, and then when we hold it down, you can kind of see glitch adjusting the timing on the slowdown feature. So let's go ahead and play that out. Yeah. And we can do the same thing with Effectrix here as well. Let's go ahead and do the MIDI configure, and then we do the timing, and then MIDI learn, and then move the encoder, and then we just map the encoder to that one as well. So it's the same thing. Yeah. And then there's a few other effects on here. Let's go ahead and just like duplicate this over, just so we have another instance of this. Let's close this. And let's close this one just so we're not confused here. Let's see. For this one, do this? Okay. Let's take off the tape stop thing. And let's do, say, like retrigger. And this kind of like, it gives it like a stuttering effect. So let me MIDI map this as well. We'll do this on the third, what's it called? The third one here. And then configure for this one. We'll delete this real quick. And then we'll add the speed here. Hold on. Is it doing it? Oh, here. There it is. Okay. So we'll map the encoder to that. And then let's try this one. Yeah. And then you can use two effects at the same time. Yeah, something like that. And like I said, I mainly do that in live performances. You can also come in here, and even if you don't have, like, say, a controller to trigger those things, you can just automate like the ons and off of those things. So like, say, this glitch one, we can automate when it turns on and when it turns off. See, like that. So when we play it out, now it's off. Now it's on again. Yeah. So if you wanted to incorporate those effects within your production, you can just draw it out on Ableton where you need it. So let's go back here. So I guess like the whole lo-fi kind of sound or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, is pretty prominent nowadays. It's like chill music or study music. I don't even know how to like really define it, but I can show you like I can show you an effect or a plugin that I've been using for a few years now, that kind of makes, I guess, lo-fi effects or lo-fi sounds and stuff like that. And I actually use this plugin a lot, like almost on every new song. It's called or it's called RC20 by Retro Color. Let me just reset everything just so you won't be confused. But basically, it's a bunch of plugins, or not plugins, but like a handful of effects that you can stack together. And it has some cool stuff on here, I guess. But let's go ahead. I have a piano sample on here. I don't know. I think the stream is kind of like in and out. So, like I said, if you're just tuning in on this, and then I'll have the complete video up after the stream, just so like you don't get all these like dropouts like when I'm talking and stuff. You can just check out the video a little bit later. But here's the track. Those are just with the effects, that just triggering them. Okay. So it has these effects basically labeled here. There's noise, wobble, distortion, like some digital kind of bit reduction thing, space, which is reverb, and then this magnetic thing, which is a kind of like a tape emulator, so it emulates like dropouts and stuff. Let's go ahead and just solo the keys here. So this is the keys, basically dry with no effects. So let's add that famous like wobble feature. So this is pretty drastic right here. So a lot of like lo-fi producers use this kind of effect on their beats to make it sound like it's a tape deck or something like that, or an old record being played. But you can use it pretty sparingly, which is, I think it sounds a lot better if you use it a little bit more sparingly. And then let's add some noise to this. So this is kind of like a vinyl record being played and stuff. And this is kind of like a tube distortion kind of effect. We can add some reverb to this. And this tape deck kind of thing. And we'll add some dropouts here. So this is what we have so far. I guess we can add this digital thing as well, but I kind of don't like it sometimes. I guess if you use it like very sparingly, it sounds okay, but sometimes it's too harsh. So we'll just take it out. So this is what it sounds like without it. Here's what it sounds like with it. And then this tool up here is kind of like a mix, kind of a wet and dry slider. So you can kind of bring it in all the way at 100%, or maybe like if you want to mix the dry signal with the wet signal, you can kind of do that. I feel like sometimes when you mix the wet and the dry, it sounds a little bit better. But just for this purpose, we'll keep it at 100. Then I have this EQ area right here where if you wanted to cut like certain, you know, frequencies within the mix or sample or whatever. And then you can widen the overall kind of sound of it. Yeah. And then we'll hear it with some drums. See how it sounds like with drums. So here's the dry signal again. Here's the wet signal. So it sounds cool, you know? Gives it like way more characteristic. And then we can add like the effects that we just did. Yeah, some cool stuff. And it also, see how the effects are kind of in a certain order down here. So the way you have this in order on the bottom here, it'll like overall affect how the chain is basically. So here's our effects chain. If we bring this glitch in to the front here, it can sound a little bit better as far as using the kind of like the tape stop. See, the tape stop will kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it'll come on after that stuttering glitch. And then I have Contact open here just for like, maybe we can play like a bass line on here. So this is one of the instruments within Contact that I purchased. It's called Lo-Fi Glow. It's pretty much a bunch of like synths, and then but they have like this kind of like lo-fi feel to it, and you can make a bunch of adjustments on here. So let's go ahead and just kind of like record that on top of here real quick. And let's go ahead and duplicate this instance of contact. That way maybe we can just play a synth on top of this here. Let's see here, and let's see, okay. So let's kind of just play with some sounds here. Push this up. Sorry, it's like super loud. Hold on. Let's try leads here. Yeah, that's what we want. Something like that. That kind of lo-fi kind of stuff. I guess that's all I really wanted to show in this video. Just kind of like a couple effects that I actually do use kind of on the regular. Definitely this RC20 I use almost on all my tracks. And then like Effectrix and Glitch, like I said, I use it mainly on live performances, but I do use it within production, especially when I'm automating stuff. Like that cool kind of like dropout, like when like a tape stops, or like, you know, like the stuttering effect. I'll use that every now and then. I know I didn't show this pad basically right here, but let's go ahead and unhook this, and then I can kind of show you. You don't need this. You don't need like this thing pretty much. You can use any kind of MIDI controller that you have to kind of like trigger all these things. So here is the PreSonus Atom. We can kind of remap some of these things. Well, the thing I like about like say Machine, that MIDI Fighter Twister, the thing with the knobs, and like a few other like MIDI controllers, is it comes with dedicated controller editing software, which is really cool. So you can really customize how your MIDI controller works. The PreSonus Atom, I don't think it comes with its own controller editor software. I mean, this is made for PreSonus Studio One, so it's kind of like a controller for that. But you can use it as just like a general MIDI controller, which is what I'll be doing now. But I do prefer MIDI controllers that have their own controlling kind of editor. So let's go ahead and just kind of maybe delete some of these mappings here, just so I can kind of show you. Okay, and then we'll remap it to the pads basically. So this one will be this one will be this pad, and this one will be this pad, and then this one will be this one will be this, and this one will be this encoder. So I have like 4 encoders up here, 3 we just mapped, and then 3 buttons basically. So if you can see on the screen, when I'm rotating this encoder, it moves the values here. And then since these aren't momentary kind of buttons or switches like how I had programmed in the MIDI fighter twister, we have to, this basically it's an on and off. So we have to kind of like push it on to turn it on, and then push it again to turn it off. So it's kind of, it works a little bit different, but you know, you can pretty much do the same thing. So you can just use pads or any kind of MIDI controller that you have or anything like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of just what I wanted to show you. I'll show you more plugins in the next live stream, some that I use for like mixing and kind of like mastering and stuff like that. Something that's a little bit more in-depth for, or not in-depth, but like most people can use. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. I'll try to fix my internet on the next one. I basically have to call the provider. But thanks again, guys. Peace.